Okay, thank you. Okay. Can you bring up the Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Hey everybody. Hey Andre. We'll call you.
And that's what Community in Schools is all about. Learn more at communitiesinschools.org. You're listening to WCCC 820 because that matters.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know
10 seconds.
to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way from the Ad Council. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. As we move into the summer season, everybody, I hope that it was a safe weekend. It was not a safe weekend for many people. You know, we're just 22 weeks into the year, and we have had 246 mass shootings, according to a report from NPR. Think about that, everybody. At least 54 people were injured this weekend, 11 killed in 7 separate mass shootings this weekend. Let's pray for the USA. We're going to be talking about that today. Some people are saying that we need an Emmett Till moment, where you need to see just what these weapons of destruction do to bodies. Yeah. So I want to know what you think about that. We're going to be talking about that at the bottom of the hour. We're going to get right into it at 6:30. Should we have an Emmett Till moment? Should we publish the pictures of the blood, of the gore, of the damage that these new weapons, these weapons of war that are on our streets, that they do to our children, to our loved ones? Think about it. These children, many of them in Uvalde, had to be identified by DNA, which means that their bodies were destroyed. Think about that. Think about Mamie Till Mobley and the decision she made to let you see her son. It energized the modern day civil rights movement, which was already ongoing, coming out of the Second World War. Black soldiers and male and female said, we are not going to fight fascism abroad and come home and deal with the same here and apartheid in the United States. So it was ongoing, but his image gave the modern civil rights movement another kind of energy. Rosa Parks said, I could not move to the back of that bus when I had the vision of this boy's face in my mind. Think about that, everybody. And then we're going to have Alderman Pat Dowell. She's running for the 1st Congressional District. I've been put out the call. I've been asking people since this race really kind of kicked up. People don't really get interested in races until we are like 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And so, thankfully, because I do know her campaign managers and I know her as well, she answered my call and she will be with us today to talk about her vision for this seat. As you recall, she was running for the Secretary of State and she pivoted once Congressman Rush said that he was going to retire. I'm going to ask her about that too. So let's talk also about the history of the first congressional district seat. It's been a majority minority district since the 1920s. And it is the longest black held seat in all of the U.S. House of Representatives. Absolutely. It's quite an historic seat. But many people are wondering if it will remain so because, of course, 300,000 black people have moved out of Chicago. And Chicago has been the black mecca in American politics. That is why Barack Obama came here. He saw something in Chicago. It was all the organizing that we've been doing for decades, quite frankly. And so there you have it. So we got a lot to talk about today. I want you to call me at WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Meet Andre and Linda and Yolanda and Samantha and Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia, praying for Philadelphia today. Wow, you all have had a tough past few days. Barbara Bacon from Oak Park and Joyce. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody like, subscribe, and please share the show with at least one person today, okay? Share the show. And then go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That is where I am active. Any other page, please, that is not where I can befriend you. And I do want to befriend you. You all are all my friends. Let's get right to some of these headlines so we can get some good news. June 18th through the 22nd, you've got the RPC conference. If you want to know about some new businesses as Americans are leaving their businesses, you need to come to the RPC conference because Reverend Jackson has a vision of sports. You know, in sports, you can get not just a job on the field, but, you know, the people who supply the hot dogs, the people who supply the drinks, the people who supply the paraphernalia, those are contracts that they signed with the teams. We're going to be talking about that and how you can get a piece of that pie. And we're going to be talking about how you can actually use Meta, Facebook, to your advantage. We're going to teach you how to use it. And we're going to have so many people there. Vicki Winans, Donnie McClurkin, and the Tommies and Darius Brooks and Pete Buttigieg. And it's going to be a tremendous conference. And guess what? It's free. So I want you to go to rainbowpush.org and get registered. Rainbowpush.org and get registered because the numbers are growing every day. But it is free, everybody. It's at South Shore Cultural Center right here on the south side of Chicago. Chicago will have a high of 76 degrees and it will thunderstorm. It is looking cloudy right now. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, partly cloudy, 74 degrees. In the NBA, well, the series is tied up. The Warriors rallied 107-88 over the Celtics. I think it's going to be a great series, everybody. In the Stanley Cup Championship Series. Well, not Championship Series. We're still trying to kind of get there. The Avalanche will be playing the Oilers tonight. The Colorado team leads their series 3-0. Yesterday, the Lightning played the Rangers. The Lightning bested the Rangers 3-2, so they would not be on the brink of elimination. And in the WNBA, the Sky 91, the Mystics 82, and the Lynx 84, and the Liberty 77. As I shared, at least 54 people injured, 11 killed in 7 separate mass shootings. A bustling street in Philadelphia, one of the main streets, one of the places where people gather. And at least 3 people were killed, 11 others injured. A shooting near a bar in Chattanooga, Tennessee, left 14 people struck while 3 others were hit by cars, according to Chattanooga Police Chief Celeste Murphy. So 3 people died, 2 of them from gunshots, while the 3rd was run over by a vehicle that was trying to flee the scene. More than 1 person is believed to have opened fire. What's going on, America? I want you to tell me. 773-763-8255. 9278 773 763 9278. We're only 22 weeks into the year, and America has seen at least 246 mass shootings. That averages out to 11 a week. Come on, everybody. What's going on? What's going on? South Korea and the U.S. responded to North Korea's launch of 8 missiles yesterday by firing 8 more missiles into waters off the east coast of the Korean Peninsula earlier today. Recall that we do not have a peace agreement with North Korea. We just signed an armistice where we are supposed to not be in conflict, but that's not what it is. And there's a suspect who killed a former Wisconsin judge, Judge John Romer, at his house. He hog-tied him, everybody. Wow. Hog-tied him and killed the judge. And he had planned to kill Governor Whitmer out of Michigan. What is going on, everybody? How is it that these judges are being hunted down? God bless Judge Romer's family. And of course, President Macron of France is under fire as he said, please do not humiliate Russia. He said it was crucial that Vladimir Putin had a way out of what he called a fundamental error, and other people are angry with him. So why does he need to be humiliated, everybody? Why does he need to be humiliated? You tell me what your thoughts are. Even though some people feel that nuclear war is coming, does it have to? With respect to baby formula, everybody, the baby formula manufacturing plant that has been at the center of the nationwide shortage restarted production Saturday. Now, mind you, it took months for the FDA to get there to investigate the spoilage. Think about that, everybody. Months for them to get there. And just 4 companies control almost 90% of the baby formula market in the United States. That's part of the problem. Wow, everybody. So let's get right to it. Gas prices are on the verge of doubling since President Biden's first day in the Oval Office. Perhaps that is part of the problem that he is having with his polling numbers. Wow, everybody. There's so much going on, but you know what? We've got some good news from Pastor Todd Urey. Pastor Urey, what's on your mind today?
The news? My goodness. I think I want to get back to the bed. What in the world? Mass shootings, monopolies on essential resources like baby formula, humiliation of our enemy, all of that just seems to be a whole lot going on. And when that's kind of the framework, it's often hard to kind of navigate. But I'm glad to be with you, Santita. I hope you had a good weekend. I watched the basketball game last night. I'm not going to tell anybody who I'm pulling for because my team isn't there, so it doesn't really matter. But it was a good game for the first half. The third quarter turned into a debacle. But other than that, everything's lovely. It's Monday. We're going to get right to it. So here we go. Good morning, Chicago. Morning, Twin Cities. Come on. Time to get up, time to get moving. Yes, it's Monday. I know the weekend's over. Time to get back to it. Put your feet on the floor. Get the coolness of that dial coming through the bottoms of your feet and recognize this truth. You are alive. Take a deep breath. Fill your lungs with L-I-F-E, life. Got something to do today. It's called a mission. We're on an assignment to change the world. So go ahead and get going. Get that morning beverage going. That morning Joe, that OJ. Drink plenty of water. Got to stay hydrated because you know it helps the body function. Let's talk about it. Actually, Santita, I was listening to the scores, and I was thinking about series and seasons. Series and seasons. You know, you've got the Stanley Cup playoffs. You've got the baseball season that's underway. We'll be approaching the All-Star break soon. You've got the NBA finals. The WNBA is playing. You've got all of these competitions where folks who are trained and prepared actually compete to be able to show who can endure. It's not just who can win a game, but who can win enough games to endure to the end to be able to walk away with the championship. And that's actually an insight into how we approach life. We have a string of days. Every day is a competition unto itself. It is a battle of the mind and the will to be able to face the challenges that are going to come with every day and to put the victories together one by one by one by one so that we can get to the places of achievement and accomplishment and walk away with the victory. Now, seasons, on the other hand, are kind of tricky, right? Because sometimes the start of a new season, when we get to the start of summer, we may have a reminder that spring refuses to completely let go. And so we shouldn't confuse, like the Hebrew scriptures tell us there's a season for everything under the sun. There's a season for you to put forth your best effort. We're not guaranteed a specific number of days. So any day that we have to put forth the best effort that we can to be able to achieve whatever it is that we will to be able to change the world. And one of the things we have to deal with just real quick is how do we handle the obstacles? So a few years ago, Ryan Holiday wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And one of the things that he talks about is how we turn obstacles into opportunities. Sometimes the obstacles of life frustrate us because we don't fully appreciate that sometimes the stone that's in your path might be the stone that you need to step on to be able to see what's over that bend. Don't get overwhelmed, frustrated, and just exasperated by the obstacles that come your way. Handle the obstacles by doing a few things just real quick that are going to help you navigate and to make sure that your series, you continue to put forth the best that you have and that your seasons continue to work to your advantage. Number one, you got to just gather your perception. Don't react spontaneously to the obstacle that comes your way. Take a moment, assess it, understand it, and then take a survey internally of the resources you already have to be able to navigate it. You have a spark of greatness inside of you to handle whatever comes your way. So when something comes your way, don't freak out, don't pass out, don't flip out, don't wig out. Just step up and focus and keep moving. And then when you gather yourself, handle the challenge, because the challenge is not going to get the best of you. It's going to get the better out of you. Today is the day for you to handle the obstacle because you're in the series. You may lose a game, but you're going to come back again because you are a winner. And as you approach each day with victory as your goal, you're going to get those victories lined up. You're going to walk away the champ.
Amen to that. I like that. Pastor, we all need some encouragement, which is why we have this segment, because we're encountering so much all day, every day. But what we need is encouragement. We need an encouraging word, and we need to keep on moving. How about that? Blessings to you, Pastor Todd Geary, pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church. Hope I can get you back before I get off the air today so that you can fill us in on the Rainbow Push Conference. I've got to move on to Dr. Shanita Knighton now. But if I can call you maybe in about 30 minutes or so, I'd love to be able to do that, Pastor Yuri. If you're not going to be in court or at your church or someplace else, I don't know what you're doing. You've got 20 jobs. So just shoot me a text and let me know if you can come back on at the top of the hour. Absolutely. You know what? We have got Dr. Shanita Knighton on with us, infection preventionist. Of course, she has been teaching at Case Western Reserve University. She's a research clinical scholar. She's one of the world's foremost infection preventionists. Now you're beginning to hear people talk about preventing infection as we see that not only is the pandemic still here, but the pandemic is endemic. It's going to be with us. It's going to be with us. We didn't arrest it when we could have, and so it's not going to be with us forever. Okay? That is COVID-19, or COVID-22. I don't know where we are now, but it's here. And it's spreading. And I have been to several public events and no one is wearing any masks at all. And I guess as we're shedding our clothes, Dr. Shanita Knighton, who is also a registered nurse, we're shedding our inhibitions. That's kind of what happens in the summertime, right? So you have been writing, publishing through your social media at Hey Dr. Nina, at HEY Dr. Nina. You need to get there. Because she's straightforward. She just takes you right to where you need to be for the summertime. How you need to take care of yourself at a picnic and all this, just so much stuff that we don't think about. Girl, I don't even want to eat out anymore. Oh, I'm scared to eat the get my barbecue ribs off the grill. I'm like, did they breathe over it? But talk to us, give us pointers, because just going forward, I really want you to do that so that we can become at least more conscientious as we move into this summer season.
Good morning. So
Good
I
morning.
think the biggest thing is just awareness. And as much as people want to think that, let's say, COVID is over, people want to think that germs don't exist. They do. And as a result of that, it makes us think about, okay, if these germs do exist, there's a possibility that I can get sick. And so there's this notion, and I talked to a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of people say, geez, because I practice infection prevention, I didn't even get a cold this season. I didn't even get a flu this season. I didn't even have an itchy throat this season. And my notion is I tell people all the time, it's possible to normalize not being sick.
Mm-hmm. 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 And, that's very hard for us to even think of doing, but you're right.
Exactly. And so in order for us to even be able to do that, have this notion of normalize not being sick, that means being honest with ourselves about our current practices. My sister had me laughing the other day, but it was laughing because it was actually not funny, but it was the reality of what does happen. She was at the gas station. She was observing. So she said, it's crazy because as I'm starting to get more and more tips from you, my life is forever changed, and you really start to pay attention to people's patterns. So she said she watches this young lady pump her gas. Now, we all know that a lot of people touch the gas pump. Not a lot of gas pumps have, hand sanitizer or some cleaning mechanism there. So she pumps the gas, and then she goes inside of the store to get her change because she apparently had overpaid. And she comes back out with a bag of Flamin' Hot potato chips, and she's already eating the potato chips. And my sister was telling me all I could think about was the fact that you just finished pumping gas. I watched you touch the door, and then now I'm watching you eat those potato chips. Not paying attention to how many people touch the pump and how many people touch the door. Not talking about the fact that she had cash in the other hand, which means that you had money. You look at all of those contaminating factors right there, and sometimes those are the individuals that are going to say, I was very careful. I don't know how I got sick with COVID. They're going to say, I don't know how I came down with this cold. They're going to put up and down a relative gave it to them. They're going to put up and down that they got it from the last party that they were at. But they forgot about the grocery store visit. They forgot about the gas pump. They forgot about touching the doors. They forgot about touching the elevator buttons. They're going to forget about those many little small things that people just seem to not pay attention to. Not because it's their fault, but because if we've been living a certain way and practicing certain habits, we have to undo those habits in order to be able to adopt new ones. And so what that means is that if you have only normalized hand hygiene at mealtime and at using the restroom, you have a long way to go. We have to think about what are the other times and when we should be practicing for which we are coming in contact with the same surfaces and same items as other people. Even something as simple as when we're sitting down at our tables and we're getting ready to eat, I constantly use the analogy of the spoons. I see so many times spoons laying over our food. If I come to your house and the spoon is laying over in the food, and I'm not the first one eating, and it ain't just accidentally slide down there the first time, 9 times out of 10, I'm not getting anything from that dish. Because people don't realize that if there's 15 of us here, and everybody got some of the potato salad, and now the tip of the spoon is laying down in a potato salad, all of those germs from those 15 people is now inside of the potato salad because the spoon slipped down into the potato salad.
Oh, gosh.
And so Yes, but it happens all the time and we don't think about it. And I always express to people the way to get past that is to have people normalize sitting the phone on a napkin, on a saucer, on something else outside of the dish itself. Tell them do not leave the do not leave the phones inside of your dishes. And so I know that we're going to be sharing a lot more tips during the summer, Santita, but I think those are my main two things that I want to start with, and that's just unnormalizing our current behavior so that way we can adopt new infection prevention practices. And as we're thinking about self-serve and buffet eating, what's happening with the spoon and the utensil?
Well, you know what? We're going to be talking about that just moving forward because, like I said last week, you're not making me paranoid. You're not making us paranoid. You're making us aware. And when we become aware, then we change our behaviors and we require that others change theirs. And not in a mean-spirited way, in a way that will lift all of us up. And I thank you for that. Everybody go to @Hey Dr. Nina. That is her handle, @HEY Dr. Nina. It's like, hey, Dr. Nina. Yeah, that's it. Go there. Go on Instagram, Facebook, that is her handle, and you want to follow her. And you want to follow her because every day she's publishing something that is going to be useful to you. It certainly has been to me. Sending you much love, Dr. Nina. Should America have an Emmett Till moment? Should we show photographs of the damage that is done to people with these assault weapons? Think about that. Call me at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Yes. Oh, wow. I mean, well, Chaparral's daughter got married yesterday. And I have to tell you, she put on a glorious, glorious wedding. Of course, she had like my favorite color. One of my favorite colors, pink. I was like the only Delta who they came to my room, how it is when you're being pledged in college. And my room was pink and green. Like, what? We knew you wear a lot of pink and green, but are you for real? I just love the combination. My guest room was pink and green. Love it. Love it, girl. Love it. Although now I've fallen in love with red. I always loved red. I just couldn't wear red lipstick when I was in college, because it was just so adult. My mother didn't let me wear black until I was 25. She said, that's when you wear black. Unless it was black velvet and I was going to a special event, something like that. But all the stuff that I'm saying. But it's crazy.
Sending Jennifer Bishop and Dwight McKee through.
Fantastic. Do you want to listen to us talk about this Emmett Till moment, Dr. Knighton?
Sure.
Okay. Jennifer Bishop Jenkins.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
How are you? And you've got Dwight McKee on with you.
No, my husband Bill and I are in the car here together driving back from Virginia to Chicago.
All right. Oh, please well, I wish we could have conferenced him in too. We love Bill. We do. Okay. But thank you so much. I mean, you better not leave me, girl. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not going to be
everybody.
I love my Jennifer. Don't you leave me, girl. But, Virginia is wonderful because, my mother was raised there in part.
We're going to have a home in both places.
Okay, thank you. Leave me, girl. And of course, we've got Dr. Shanina Knighton there, right here with us, infection preventionist, brilliant scholar from Case Western Reserve University. So excited that she's with us. And Dwight McKee, thank you for being with us. So let's get right to it. We're coming up. Oh, boy, oh boy. Oh, so much is going on, everybody. Hey, I want you all to call me. 773-763-9278. Lorena, I almost wore hot pink to the wedding yesterday. But it was so cool. I said, no. And then I wore something like this bluish something. And everybody there was in pink. Okay.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I want to hear from you today as we talk about gun violence. You know, we've only had 22 weeks in the year. We've had 246 mass shootings. That is according to Axios. That's 11 mass shootings a week. 4 people killed. It's what's going on, everybody. And the question now has been, some Uvalde parents have said, I want you to see what happened to my child. Many of these children had to be identified by DNA. What does that mean? That means their bodies were destroyed or their faces were blown off. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. And several of the parents wanted to have open casket funerals so that we could see what happened to their child, much like Mamie Till Mobley did in 1955. In August of 1955, Emmett Till had been sent down to the South, as so many African Americans have been. My sister and I used to go. My sister was a little too young for that, but certainly Jesse, Johnny and I, and Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf and I went and spent the summers in South Carolina and Virginia with our grandparents. And so it was with some trepidation that Mamie Till Mobley did this, but she said, this is what we do, and I want my son to know his family. And so she sent him down there, giving him the talk and all of that. He is alleged to have whistled at this Carolyn Bryant, who now, more than almost 60 plus years later, has said it didn't quite happen that way. He wasn't making a pass at me, but he's given her a pass. No one wants to even interview her and talk about how this story got him killed. But what did happen was it put another energy in the civil rights movement, which had really taken off after the Second World War. Black soldiers returned home and said, I will not fight fascism at home and be treated this way. Abroad and be treated this way at home. I'm not going to have it. So black men and women who had served, black men and women who had seen their loved ones go away, were fighting and pushing. We'd always been fighting and pushing. But this gave it another kind of energy. This seeing Emmett Till's monstrously deformed corpse changed everything. Would that happen with Uvalde? Do you think that would change things? I mean, what about Buffalo? These killers are using military-grade weapons, which are designed to destroy the body. That's what's happening here. So I want to know what your thoughts are. And so I said, let me bring 2 people who had some affiliation with Emmett Till. I mean, Dwight saw the picture as a baby. And he said, you can't unring that bell. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew it was monstrous. But let's start with you, Jennifer Bishop Jenkins, because you also knew Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley. Jennifer Bishop, formerly of the Brady campaign, and so, of course, history teacher. Yes.
Against violence in the Chicago area. Both of us, Chicago area retired school teachers who had loved ones murdered, and we worked on gun violence and against the death penalty and all sorts of things. And I was privileged to sit and converse with her in her home about her decision to open that casket, because she said, I wanted the world to see what they did to my boy. And then to know, as a history teacher, that went on to, some lovely seamstress in the South named Rosa Parks, who saw that picture and said, I refuse to take a seat at the back of the bus. And the whole thing started, the civil rights movement, born out of the courage of one mother who wanted the world to see what they had done to her son. But I have to tell you, as a murder victim family member advocate, that the most important thing here today for Uvalde parents and for all murder victim family members is to be given the choice. my family in the murders in Winnetka 33 years ago, when we went through that, we weren't given a choice. We weren't allowed to see. They prevented us from seeing our loved ones' murdered bodies. They covered it up. They didn't let us see crime scene photos. In the courtroom during the trial, the jury, the judge, the attorneys, and the offender got to see the photos of the crime scene, but we were turned away and not allowed in the very same courtroom to see them. They didn't even give us the choice. So I believe that each of these parents needs to be given the choice in Uvalde and in all crime scenes. And to explain to them, this is your decision. Do you want to see the body? Do you want to have photos of the body? Do you want to have other people be able to see photos of this crime scene? Because that should be given to the parents as a choice, and too often the families aren't given that choice. There's a wonderful organization called Parents of Murdered Children, POMC.org, and they do wonderful protocol advice for cases like this. How do you talk to victim families about this? How do you present information to them? And how do you empower their decision making? And I highly recommend that every single police department across the country follow the POMC protocol.
Well, I want to know who denied your family and who is denying these families full access to their loved ones. I mean, what happened? Who did that? I'm sorry, who did that?
I mean, when you go through that, you're so numb. You don't know what's going on. You just do what you're told. I mean, we went along with whatever people told us because we were just numb and didn't even know what was going on. We just kind of staggered through it. Nobody explained to us that we should have, that we had that choice until I realized in the courtroom 2 years later when we finally went to trial against the killer that they were turning the evidence in a direction that only the courtroom could see it and not where we were sitting, deliberately, because I guess they felt they were trying to protect us. But that does not empower victim families need to be given the choice. To this day, I always regret that I've never seen crime scene photos, and I've never seen, I never saw my sister the way that, she died. I really now regret that. It would have been horrifying, but I don't care. I'm bearing witness to what she went through. Crime victims have rights, and among those rights should be their right to choose on this matter, and it needs to be explained to them, even at a time so close to the crime when they're still just in stunned, shock. You still need to give them that choice.
Well, do you think it would make a difference if we had an Emmett Till moment in this generation, at this particular time in history, if we could see the bodies that have been so destroyed? Do you think that would make a difference?
And to see the massive destruction, if people could see the massive destruction of these assault weapons, it would be a lot easier to return them back to the time when they were effectively banned. There is one danger in all this, and I just want to caution. There's a danger of something called murderabilia. Put the word murder and then ABILIA. Murderabilia. It's an actual cult market. People who buy and fetishize crime scene and murder affiliated items. There's they even have Etsy and Amazon, sales of these things. And there is, again, a wonderful project through Parents of Murdered Children and a Houston area victim advocate named Andy Kahn, Kahan, that actually works against the murderabilia market. People have things stolen from murder scenes because they later can sell them. So there's that problem as well that we need to be aware of.
Dwight McKee, what are your thoughts? Do we need an Emmett Till moment?
Well, we need a reality check that people can see how horrific these guns, kind of damage they can do to an innocent child or innocent life. And we need to be able to extract the fantasy that a lot of these video games and these TV shows put in play as these children grow up playing these games of murder. I think sometimes they lose perspective that these killings are real. I've always said that when a kid plays a video game, that the first time he plays the game and he loses, that the whole game should go off, that he should lose the game. He has to buy a whole other game, pay $100 to buy a whole other game. So he can see how real it is that these people don't get up, these kids don't get up and start all over again. And so a lot of our kids really don't understand the reality of what they're dealing with and looking at. They're dealing in fantasy, and they don't know the difference between a video game and real life. I think not only should the victims be seen, I think that the bodies of those people that do the shooting who were killed on the scene should also be seen, so that these young guys who fantasize murder understand that there's a real consequence when they run in and shoot a school up. That chances are they won't be taken to Burger King and bought a hamburger. That chances are they too will be killed and slaughtered, and they'll need to slaughter somebody else. And they should be able to see the consequences of their behavior on the front side. You know, violence is so synonymous with our country and the founding of the country. Our national anthem is a song about rockets and bombs and runaway slaves being shot. It's a country that was born in iniquity, and it has haunted us all the days of our lives in this country. Is we've always needed guns and violence to maintain order and control. And so it's so much part of the landscape that I think sometimes we lose real perspective in the damage that can be done or that has been done. And when these kids and these adults be shooting for sport, I think sometimes they don't know the difference between real life and sporting life.
I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Do you think that we're sanitizing these murders by these assault weapons by not showing what happens to the victims? Think about it. Think of Gunsmoke. Think of The Virginian. Think of all of these old television shows that you can now see on these nostalgia channels. When people are shot, the actor recoils, falls to the ground, but you see no blood. That's not the way it happens. It's not the way it happens, and it certainly is not the way it happens. Hey, Matt Sowell from AM 950 Radio. That's not the way that it happens. That's not the way it happens in real life. In real life, people's bodies are destroyed. Parents couldn't see their children. They were not allowed to see their children who'd been killed. They had to offer their DNA because their children's bodies had been destroyed. Faces had been blown off, heads had been blown off, all of that. It sounds awful, and it was. So even as the Senate is, as they're crafting this bill, Dwight and Jennifer, first you, Dwight, and then you, Jennifer, as they're crafting all of this bill, they've taken assault weapons, the ban on that, off the table. I'm like, are you serious right now, Dwight?
And the reason that you want it to be seen is in order for good people to be able to understand the impact and to put political pressure on the politicians. If you remember during the war, the president decided that the body bags, that nobody could see the bodies that came back from one or two of the wars, because he knew that in Vietnam, what turned Vietnam around is when water concrete started showing the bodies and showing the casting. It changed the political landscape, and people became upset and said, no, this war is barbaric. it must be hearted. And so years later, in the next American War, the president forbade all of the bodies from being shown because he didn't want the political pressure that comes when people see these are real young men and young women been killed on this battlefield. And so I think that for the sake of the last ones that want these pictures to be shown is the National Rifle Association, because they know that when people really understand the kind of damage that these weapons do, that they will rise up and protest.
Let me ask you this, Jennifer. David Boardman, who's a former longtime executive editor of the Seattle Times, one of the nation's premier newspapers, said, he tweeted out, couldn't have imagined saying this years ago, but it's time. With the permission of a surviving parent, to show what a slaughtered 7-year-old looks like. It's time. Maybe only then will we find the courage for more than thoughts and prayers. Nancy Barnes, who's head of news at NPR, concurred. She said, we cannot sanitize these killings. That in and of itself is an editorial decision. I mean, because these people who we don't even know, Jennifer, they decide what we see, don't see. And are we sanitizing these killings by not showing, as what David Boardman said was the slaughter? I mean, I've never heard, you don't even hear corporate media say that these are slaughters, but that's what he said.
No, they are slaughters and they are being sanitized. And I do think that they should, I'm not saying that we would mandate. I believe it is the choice of the family. The choice of the victim's families should be offered to them, but they need to have it explained to them in that moment, in horrible shock, that this is, that there are going to people that are going to want to sanitize it even for the victim, thinking that they're doing something good for the victim, but they're not only not serving the victim's maybe best long-term interests, they're also disempowering them at a critical moment in their lives. And they have a right to see it if they choose to, and they have a right to share it with the public if they choose to. And I believe it would have a tremendously powerful political impact in direction that would save lives.
What do you think it would do?
Yes.
What do you think it would do? What do you think it would do?
I believe it would provide tremendous impetus to ban assault weapons, which is really just a no-brainer step. They just always, the Second Amendment says nothing about this. It's about well-regulated militias. It's been widely distorted by the gun lobby, which is funded entirely by the profit-seeking and profit-making gun manufacturers who are making billions of dollars off of gun sales. There's more guns in America than there are people, and that's not true in any other place in the world, and no other country in the world gives as wide access to military-grade weapons where you could kill a mass number of people in very destructive ways. To see how destructive these armor-piercing bullets are in the head of a second grader and a fourth grader, that's something the nation needs to see.
Dwight McKee, this was in 1955 when Emmett Till was killed, and when Jet published the photograph. Do you have any memory of it? I mean, like, I was about 5 or 6 when Fred Hampton was killed, and I have memories not only because I watched television, but we knew him. But it's amazing how watching television, even though you don't know what's going on, something's going on, good or bad. Do you have any memory of the Emmett Till slaying and the photograph?
Well, we moved to Chicago from Memphis in '56, and so Emmett Till happened in '55, and so my earliest memory and understanding of Chicago was the Emmett Till pictures. As a young boy, he was a young boy in Chicago who had come south. I was a young boy in the South who was going north. And so it really put fear in my heart, not just of leaving the South, coming north, but the fact that we were in the South and understood the idea of reckless eyeballing. I lived in Memphis in 1955 when we could only go to the zoo one day a week. When we had to sit in the balcony of the Malco to watch the movie, going through the back door and up the stairs. When we had to ride on the back of the bus. And I was a young boy in Memphis. And so, you know, we understood the penalty of violating or insulting white people, even at their young age in my life. So when the picture came along, I didn't quite, the killing came along, I didn't quite understand the total context. But I did understand the monstrosity of the picture of a boy not much older than me, whose head was blown up like a balloon. It was a horrible thing just for a young kid to see and to process and understand. And it did make a tremendous difference in the civil rights movement and in the momentum of the people fight for social justice. That we understand in this day and age that we not sanitize these killings and these weapons of mass destruction, that we understand its impact on anybody's life. Because, you know, there is no need for a person to have a gun like that, even if he was an animal. I think if they could show the impact of a weapon like this, would they have on a deer or a bear, which would be horrific. Because these weapons need to be banned because they are made for total destruction and for war, to go through armor and tanks, and yet we use them as somehow some perverted notion of self-protection or some Second Amendment rights.
You know, Jennifer, I'm going to give you the last word these last couple of minutes here. You've done so much work in this space with the Brady campaign, and just in this tragedy that your family experienced. Are we sanitizing these killings? I mean, you know, people are saying, some people in the media are saying, look, with the parents' permission, you need to be able to see this. If they want to publish the picture, if they want to have an open casket, they should do that. And yet there's this pushback by the establishment. As we're seeing, the police didn't do anything. And they even stopped the gentleman who was going to run into the school, Jennifer. When he saw this boy had a gun, he was going to stop him, and the police said no. Well, I mean, and you're telling me that you don't even have the right, as a surviving family member, to see your loved one. This is insane. How does this work? I've got 2 minutes for you.
Yeah, you know, it is definitely a denial of victims' rights. It is absolutely a choice that they should be given. These are their loved ones, and they are their next of kin, and it's their decision. And I cannot tolerate police and prosecutors who generally do a very good and very tough job, but they have way overstepped on this matter for far too long. They are trying to control the situation. They're trying to keep things, you know, under wraps and not have everybody get too upset. They want to keep everybody calm. They want to try to keep everything managed. The prosecutors are trying to, you know, I think that they sometimes mistakenly believe that they're protecting or helping these victims' families from too much trauma. There's no way that you are going to reduce the level of trauma for these just for that to actually happen if they choose to. The key is to give them the choice. And any victim family who wants to see he the body who wants to share publicly the photos of the damage done by these insanely horrific weapons. There is no reason. My pregnant sister had a baby blown out of her belly. She was so proud of that baby, so happy. He pointed the gun at her pregnant belly as she was begging for the life of her unborn child, and he used a weapon that had disruptor bullets, hollow point bullets, that literally destroyed the fetus so that we couldn't determine its gender to bury it with its name. And, you know, these were choices that were taken from us, and you have to give the victims the choice in this situation. And we need to face this horror. Collectively and individually, we need to face this horror. Victims don't want to see it, and that's sure. But as a society, this is who we are, and we must look it square in this place.
Think about it, everybody. Think about George Floyd. George Floyd. That film is essentially a snuff film. Watching life choked out of someone changed everybody. Think of Ahmaud Arbery. Although we did not see the gory pictures of what those weapons did to him, they blew a hole in this young man, a hole in his body. Think about that, everybody. I think we need an Emmett Till moment. I think it would change us, and we do need to be changed because this is not right. Jennifer Bishop, formerly of the Brady campaign, indeed, you know, one of my partners in peace, Dwight McKee, Dr. D, brilliant social scientist. Wow. We're talking about the midterms, everybody. Did you know that on June 28th, we are having a primary here in Chicago? Are you registered? Go to vote.org and find out if you are. We're going to have one of the candidates from the 1st Congressional District's congressional seat, Pat Dowell, on with us on the other side of the break. Yeah, back in just a minute. Wow. Jennifer and Dwight?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow.
That was a powerful half hour there.
It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. And Matt was thanking me for pointing out that something, I mean, I even heard these numbers are even lower, that most of these killings are not committed by mentally ill people. They're not. These are people who are perfectly sane, who are also very angry.
Yeah, anger. That's right.
Anger. So just stop, y'all, and stop with this lie that the corporate media and these government officials are perpetrating. People who are mentally ill hurt themselves. So you know what? Please give my love to your husband. Thank him for letting us have you this morning.
Hello. He's waiting. So we will set a lunch.
When you get in.
I will text.
Yeah, well, let's talk tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Much love.
Much love to you, and be safe. Just let me know you got home, okay?
Okay.
Just, just a quick text. I just like to know. That's my thing. I know she thinks I'm nuts, but that's what girlfriends do with each other, even when we're with our husbands or significant others. We just let folks know we got home. So, Dwight McKee?
Yes.
Thank you so much. You want to come back at the bottom? Oh, wonderful. Do you want to come back at the bottom of the hour and talk with Bob Starks about the significance of the 1st Congressional District? Of course you do. We'll call you back at 7:30.
Okay.
No, he's like, what? I can't believe this. Alderman Dowell, how are you?
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
It is great hearing your voice. I've been trying to get you for a long time. I reached out to Kitty as soon as you started running. Because I wanted, obviously my brother wasn't, even considering running at the time. He and his wife are now empty nesters. And his last.
That's right.
Well, you know what? It's just she's running the Muhammad Ali Museum and Foundation down in Louisville. So they've been everybody's at the change of life, and and you're prepared to go in one direction, and then life throws you a curve. But I have so much respect and admiration for you, And, you know, I do. And this will be, I just really want you to talk about, you know, your vision and what you see, because the first congressional district, you know, historically means so much to us. And I certainly do want to hear about your pivot from the Secretary of State's space to this, you know, because we're finding that the Secretary of State, you know, I think because Jesse White is such an amiable fellow, such a wonderful man, and he's been so engaged with people. I don't know if we really knew, particularly in the state of Illinois, beyond his interaction with our young people and all of that, just how critical the Secretary of State position is. You know, so, you know, it'll be, you know, I'll give you the space to go on and say the things that you want to say so you can get your platform out there, okay?
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm glad you're here. And I hope that you'll be able to make it back before the 28th. And after. No matter what.
I'm back.
And after. So you have my number and you know, so boom. So there we have it. So, but how are you doing otherwise? How are things going?
I'm doing well. You know, I want to tell you, I had not seen your brother Jesse for a long time. And I ran into him at the CBC reception. It was so good to see him.
Oh, wow. He's doing well. He's doing well, you know, and he's doing the things I think that he really, really loves to do. I think the happiest I had ever seen him was when he was in seminary. I mean, upon reflection, looking back, because Jesse is someone who, he's very systematic and all of that, but I always felt that politics was very harsh for him. And in fact, there was a GQ article on him early, just when he had first gotten into Congress. And he actually, thank you so much, Devin. He actually missed the vote trying to explain something to the writer of this article. And he became so despondent that the writer said, I stepped away, because Jesse wanted to have a perfect record. And he was just devastated. And I just knew that this was, you know, I always felt that it was a little tough for him. But you know what, praise the Lord. He's, you know, his book just won a big award. And so he's doing well. And thank you for your friendship with my brother down through the years. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You've been very kind to him. Stand by, everybody. We're coming up.
10 seconds.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Monday, June 6th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We were Air America, but now we're the Heartland signal. Hope you'll join us over on social media and AM 950 radio. Yes, Matt, I'm so glad that you're joining me today. And my people in D.C. and people from all over the country, indeed all over the world, are meeting us on the Santita Jackson Show. Please spread the word, and everyone, like and share. Go to my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show. Like and share. Like and subscribe, and then share the show. Go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is the only place where I can get friends, everybody. The Santita Jackson page is just a landing page. So please go to Santita Jackson and Friends, because I certainly do want to make your acquaintance and your friendship there. And I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Let's talk about the midterms, particularly as they relate to Chicago and the state of Illinois. June 28th, you just had a special election up in Minnesota. I know that, Matt. But June 28th, and it seems to me it's almost like a new form of voter suppression, because, you know, when my brother ran for Congress in 95, just 27 years ago, you know, the debates were televised. Now, I realize everybody's on social media now, but the debates were televised and they became news. Now that's not what's happening. So many of us don't even know that we have a primary on the 28th, but we sure do. And we're looking at the 1st Congressional District, and I hear you. Is it Fanya Barry? I would like to interview some judges because, now we're beginning to see just how important they are. And the fact is, we actually elect them. Going to have Alderman Pat Dowell. She's one of the leading candidates to replace Congressman Bobby Rush, the former Black Panther, the icon in our community. And so we're going to hear what her thoughts are with respect to her candidacy and what she feels she'll be able to bring to Washington, D.C. The RPC, the Rainbow Push Coalition International Conference, June 18th through the 22nd. If you want to learn how to use Meta, that is Facebook, we're going to be having a special class there. If you want to find out how you can get involved in professional sports, not as a player, but as a business person. Yeah, because the hot dogs and the cups and the sodas and the paraphernalia, those are all contracts. You need to get in line for that. And we're going to have Pete Buttigieg. That's right, Pete Buttigieg will be at the convention. So many people will be there, and it's free. And it will be at the South Shore Cultural Center, very accessible to you. Please go to rainbowpush.org and go on and get registered. It is free. It is free. It is free. And Chicago will have a high of 76 degrees today. Thunderstorms. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 74 degrees, partly cloudy. In the NBA, the Warriors and the Celtics are tied at 1 win apiece. The Warriors won yesterday, 107 to the Celtics, 88. In the NHL, Stanley Cup pursuit of that championship trophy, everybody. The Avalanche will be playing the Oilers tonight. In their series, the Colorado team leads 3-0. And tonight, yesterday, the Lightning beat the Rangers 3-2. Exciting series that they're having over there. And in the WNBA, come on, we got to support our ladies, everybody. They play some great basketball. The Lynx, 84, the Liberty, 77, and the Sky, 91, and the Mystics, 82. Seems like we had a great day in basketball, everybody. Chicago and Minnesota. It's been 22 weeks in this year, everybody. America has already seen at least 246 mass shootings. At least 54 people were injured. 11 were killed in seven separate mass shootings just over this weekend. Now, 22 weeks in the year, 246 mass shootings. That's 11 mass shootings a week, with 4 to spare. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. We just had a conversation about whether America needs an Emmett Till moment. Do we need that? Do we need to see what these military-grade assault weapons do to the body? These parents in Uvalde cannot see their children. They've been denied that opportunity. And they also cannot see their children because the children's bodies have been destroyed. They have to give them DNA samples. Think about that. It sounds awful. It is awful, everybody. Praying for the family of Judge John Romer, whose house, they found him hogtied in Wisconsin. He's a judge. Hogtied and killed, everybody. What is going on? This killing of this retired judge and these other judges and their families being hunted down. And in Ukraine, people are angry with President Macron of France, who's saying, look, don't humiliate Russia. Let's negotiate our way out of this. What do you think about that, everybody? I think we need to negotiate our way out of it. I don't think we should be talking about nuclear war like it's a fait accompli. All right, everybody, let's get to, before I get to this funeral worker, he claims that the police stopped him. He was just interviewed on CNN, and many people are talking to him. He saw Salvador Ramos, the accused killer in the Uvalde massacre. He saw him drive his car into the ditch, and when he saw his assault rifles, he tried to stop him. He tried to run into the school. And guess what? Cody Brazano said he and a coworker were about 8 to 10 feet from where he crashed his pickup truck. He offered to help the teenager, but when he saw that he had AR-15 rifles and was heading toward the school, he decided to run over. As he ran, a cop asked him where he was going and said he was going to stop Ramos. That's what he said. And the cop then reportedly told him to stay back and shut up. What happened in Uvalde, everybody? Wow, we got a lot of questions. And maybe when Alderman Pat Dowell, if she gets to Washington, she can ask these questions too, because I don't understand what happened. A longtime alderman, someone who has served the community faithfully, who has done so much. And plus, she's a former basketball player. You know, we gotta love that. But she is one of the leading candidates for this first congressional seat. What does that mean? What is the first congressional seat? Why is it so important? It's been a it's been a majority minority seat since the 20s. It's been held by Black people for about 100 years. 100 years. And although we had a high of 65% between 2003 and 2013, and now it's about 51.8% Black, it's still many people consider it to be a Black seat, even as 300,000 Black people have been pushed out of Chicago because they can't afford to live here. But we're so excited to have her today because she has a tremendous platform. And I've invited all of the candidates here, Alderman Dowell, because although my brother is running, he wasn't always going to run. That having been said, I want to be fair. And not only that, I want people to hear you because people are not hearing enough from you during this campaign. And this is a big platform. So God bless you. And I'm so glad that you're with us today. I have a question for you. We're going into we are in such a contentious time, Alderman Dowell. I'm wondering how, with this hyper partisanship that we have in the House and the Senate, what would be your strategy for dealing with people who don't want to deal with you, across the aisle? It's like we've never quite seen anything like this before. I worked for Gus Savage when I was in college, and routinely Republicans would stop by the office because even though they might vote in opposite directions, they liked each other. So they would go golfing and have friends. They were concerned about each other's health and they take care of each other. That doesn't happen now. How do you deal with an enemy, Alderman Dowell?
Well, let me say my experience first, Santita, good morning to you, and thank you so much for having me on your platform. I would just jump right in and say, I've learned through my years serving in the city council and also as chair of the budget committee and city council that building relationships with others is very, very important, especially when you don't have a monolithic legislative body. And I think, the city council, no matter what people say, is not monolithic. Yes, we're all from Chicago, but inside that body, we have Republicans, we have Democratic Socialists, we have Progressives, we have what I call old school, old line Democrats, we have Independents. So, I think it's a matter of building relationships, finding the commonalities that we share, things that we care about, and then working around the edges at small things initially to, develop that relationship, to develop some success, and then to move out on larger issues. And I think I've learned through my service within the council to be a coalition builder, a consensus builder of diverse interests, which is how we have passed, a budget, and to ensure that that budget reflects needs within our various communities, where there's differences in diversity. So I want to take that same talent, that same understanding and expertise to Congress and finding ways to work with people who, live in different parts of the United States, have different ideologies, are Republican and Democrat, because there will be differences within the Democratic Party itself. And I think that's just the challenge. Mm-hmm. It's not easy.
No, it is not easy. I want to know, you heard me read these awful numbers about the gun violence in the United States, although we have a violence problem, just generally speaking. And many people have tried to make gun violence synonymous with Chicago, which is unfair, untrue. That having been said, we've had 246 mass shootings over the past 22 weeks in the United States of America. What can a representative in the lower house of Congress say or do? I mean, is it a platform? What would you say? What would you do? uh, what would you advocate for? Because we clearly have a problem here.
Yes, it's you know, at the very core of the matter, protecting our neighborhoods is a local issue. But we have to move legislation within Washington that is consistent across all 50 states. So that what we find now, for example, where Illinois has strict gun laws, our partners, not our partners, but our states that surround us, Indiana, Wisconsin, and others, their laws are lax. So we need laws across the state that apply to every individual state that would protect our local municipalities. So in Washington, as a representative, I would join the fight and be very vocal about the need to do certain things that I think we should be able to get Republicans and Democrats to agree on. It's unfortunate that so many people have died through, these mass shootings, but it's beginning to have an effect on the Republicans who have now started moving more towards looking at some gun legislation. For me, that means banning assault weapons. I care deeply about making sure that we have a comprehensive background check, a universal background check. I believe we also need to have a national inventory of permits, and so that when one person moves from, let's say, Illinois to North Carolina, we can follow that gun, we can follow that person. I think that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms needs to invest more in municipalities where we have problems. In Chicago, we have had their support in the gun trafficking work that the city of Chicago has done. We need to have more of that, and we need to bring in more support and money from the Department of Justice to provide money to our various police officers to improve training, to help them with their equipment needs. And so those are all the things that I think a freshman congressman can do, join in the fight and lift the voice.
We're talking with Alderman Pat Dowell. She's one of the leading candidates for the first district congressional seat here in the state of Illinois. I want to know, as you see it, it seems like we are just in times of tumult. It seems everything is hitting us at one time. Can you list out maybe 3 or 4 of what you think would be the most crucial issues facing Americans right now, and specifically Chicagoans and people in Bronzeville? What are they asking you? Because as we've talked about these international issues, people are saying, you know what, I care about Ukraine, but I need a stimulus check, right? I'm really hurting here. What are some of the big issues that you see writ large and macro and micro? What are they?
Well, when I go knock on doors, both in Chicago and in other parts of the first district issue stretches from the South Loop all the way almost to Kankakee. So it is a very diverse district. But people want the same thing, Santita. They want affordable health care. Mental health care has come up a number of times at the door of people. People care about public safety, wanting to live in a safe neighborhood. But, people also are talking about things like affordable housing, the need to increase opportunities for low-income people, for people who are moderate income to be able to rent, and in some cases stay in their homes, seniors that want to age in place and need support, wanting the federal government to invest more in that. I'm also hearing a lot about education and eliminating student debt. My own son, who is 35 years old, is still paying student debt, and that's just ridiculous. We should be doing something about that. We should be doing something about that right now. And then I hear about investments in education, wanting to make sure our schools are more relevant to our young people, bringing back things like music and home ec and shop, things that are missing out of our school system today that the federal government should help make that happen all over the district. And to invest in non-traditional visions of our young people in cybersecurity, esports, transportation, and logistics. And then finally, I think the biggest thing is creating an economic infrastructure within the First District, having various strategies to do that. Everything from focusing on large-scale, macro economic development in, for example, bringing back the third airport or creating better transportation links between the city and the south suburban areas in Will County where the job growth is happening, to very hyper-local economic development strategies, supporting small businesses and bringing back entrepreneurs, finding ways to create more access to capital, addressing some of the bureaucratic barriers in Washington, D.C. So these are the things that I'm hearing that will be the focus of my administration. You know, as you know, I'm a very, I've been telling people I'm a workhorse, not a show horse, and I have a very action-oriented and results and work ethic. So these are the top priorities for the district.
We're talking with Alderman Pat Dowell about her candidacy as she's trying to replace Congressman Bobby Rush. And I want to know what your thoughts are. What do you need her or anyone who replaces Congressman Rush, what do you need them to take to Washington, D.C.? What do you need them to bring back? What do you need? Call us at 773-763-9278 before you go, because I do want to know just, because we've seen 300,000 African Americans leave the city, not because they wanted to leave, but it's just so expensive now. I mean, one of the bragging rights that Chicagoans had for so many years was that this was probably the most affordable big city in the United States. You know, it's hard to buy a house in LA. It's hard to buy property in New York. Not in Chicago, but that's no longer the case. As you look at your economic development plan, what else do we need? Because they're saying that, you know, Chicago's been the mecca for Black politics. And as more and more Black people moving out of Chicago, that will become less and less true.
Well, Santita, you know, I believe we have, especially in the 1st Congressional District, we have a lot of vacant land that's owned by, city government, Cook County, even the state. And we need to make use of that land and subsidize the development and production of affordable housing in a quicker fashion. And we need to find the products that we can build in our community that bring housing in at a level that is below what people are trying to get for houses in our market right now. So this would be something that I believe working with the Secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development, Marcia Fudge, and others within our state to have a deliberative strategy to have housing production for people who are of modest needs. And that can be done. We have the resources in the 1st Congressional District in terms of land. That's the first thing you need. So we need to make that happen.
Alderman Pat Dowell, I have one more question for you. You were running for a Secretary of State. And in these past couple of years, well, past several years, past presidential cycles, we've seen just how important the Secretary of State is. Why did you pivot to this congressional race?
I was looking, Santita, for an opportunity to serve more people, and at a different, in a different arena. When there was no African American stepping up to run in that race, I was the first African American to jump in the race because I felt that the services that the Secretary of State office brings to our community, we need to have an eye on that, and we need to make sure our interests are represented. When it became clear that one of the candidates in the race was able to raise a lot of money to work to get his message out across the state, and I was not able to get the support of the Cook County Democratic Party, where I came in second in the running, I was going to run against the party, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And then who knew that Congressman Bobby Rush would make his seat, or was planning to vacate his seat at the end of his term. And I thought about, exactly what a congressman does, and how it was a better fit for the kind of work I've done within my own ward, within the city of Chicago, and that I could do more for the people of the 1st Congressional District. I've been great at bringing out resources from the government into the 3rd Ward. I would say that's one of my expertise, and I am looking forward to doing that in Washington. We spend so much money, so much of our tax money to Washington, D.C. We deserve to get more than our fair share back, and at this point, we don't. And so absolutely. I'm looking to bring those resources, those programs, back to our district. That's all.
Well, you know what? What I want you to do is come back on the show before the 28th so we can continue to have this conversation. I'm so glad that we were finally able to work this out today because, I've wanted you on for a long time. Please give Kitty and Kevin my best. They're managing your campaign, dear friends of mine. Please, God bless you. Oh, we will. I got a hard break. We will, absolutely. Back in just a minute.
Bye.
Oh, sending you much love, Pat Dowell. Thank you so much, but I'll have you back. All right, everybody, see? Pat Dowell? Is she still there? Oh, okay. All right. Well, now, so we have that.
She is still here, though.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's get right to it. And you'll get Dr. Starks.
As long as we speak.
Okay. Oh, David's a very dear friend of mine, Tanya. Love him. I need to get him on. Thank you for that. I will call David. I will call him myself. Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Look, there's just so much going on nationally. I'm going to have Charles Booker on, who's the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate seat in Kentucky, because this is a national show. So I'm trying to get as many people as I can.
Dr. Starks through.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Starks?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? I have one of your mentees here, Dwight McKee.
Okay. Hello. How are you doing? Pretty good.
Okay.
Good.
So I'm going to
your voice.
get right to it. I'm going to give you the runway to get us started, Dr. Starks, because there's just so much that you know about all of this. Oh my goodness. Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, I know. Not laughing. I was, just so that you know, I am really perplexed about what happened in Uvalde. This funeral home worker bumped into Salvador Ramos, the killer. As he was headed toward the school, he saw that he had an AR-15 and he tried to stop him, and the police stopped him from stopping him from going in the building. He'd already gone in the building. They were going after him. What is that?
It's unbelievable.
This is just
Not only
bizarre.
that, the young lady inside the classroom was calling the police and begging them to come and save them.
Wait,
I mean,
no,
it was
the child.
insane. I do not understand that.
This was a child. This was a child who was eventually killed.
Little child
There was a child. She's begging on her mobile phone, begging, would you please come and get us, please, please, please? What is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm like, what were you all doing?
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey everybody, sending you much love today. Hope to see you at the Rainbow Push International Conference June 18th through the 22nd. Pete Buttigieg will be there. Tommy's and Darius Brooks, Donnie McClurkin and Vicky Winans, and so many people. The Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights will be there. It's free, and you need to be there. And more and more people are just deciding to come to Chicago every day. Will be at the South Shore Cultural Center. It is free. Meal events you got to pay for, but everything else you'll be able to socialize and be with people and get some great food. It's going to be a wonderful event, everybody. A wonderful coming together. Coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and my Facebook page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show. I do hope that you will stay in touch with me and call me at 773-763-9278. This first congressional district in Illinois is really special. It's a majority minority district and has been so since the 1920s. It has been the historically black seat in the U.S. House of Representatives for almost 100 years. Almost 100 years. Now, the hold that black people have on having that black voice in the U.S. House of Representatives is getting more and more tenuous. Just not even 20 years ago, 65% of the district was black. Now it's 51.8%. And those numbers are dwindling because blacks are moving out of Chicago, not because we want to, but because we cannot afford to stay here. Like so many people, we cannot afford to be here. But the first congressional district is really, really special. Dr. D. Dwight McKee came back to be with us so we could talk about that. We were talking with Alderman Pat Dowell, who's one of the leading candidates for that seat, along with Jackie Collins and Jonathan Jackson. But we're going to bring on this historian, this political activist, this educator, this professor, Northeastern Illinois University Center for Inner City Studies. He's been on the show before. Of course, I've known him practically all of my life. He was at Push, he worked at Push. Who hasn't worked at Push? But he's been one of my father's trusted advisors for decades. Brilliant political mind. Would you explain to us the significance of this first congressional district of Illinois, this majority-minority seat that's been held by black people since the 1920s? It's just, when we couldn't vote, we could send, and Chicago, and tell me about the specialness of Chicago, because we've sent, 19 African Americans to Congress, more than any other state. And that didn't happen out of thin air. There has been hardcore political organizing, Dr. Starks, as you well know on the ground. You said, you gave us some information about Reverend Jesse Jackson and his prodigious ability to register voters that, quite frankly, I'd heard it, but it kind of shocked me that he's registered more people to vote than any American in history. Please explain.
Right. Yeah. Well, Chicago is the capital of black politics. I mean, it is, and this has been, as you stated, since the 1920s. If Mr. Obama had not come to Chicago, he would never have been the senator and president of the United States. And the reason he came was because of two very important historical events. One was, of course, Reverend Jesse Jackson running for president, and on top of that, the absolute, outpouring of people who came to the city, and the people who voted in can never forget Brother Jackson saying that to me once that he spoke at Columbia University, and on the way out, a young man approached him and said, "There will be an African American president, and we can do it." That was, of course, Barack Obama, who was at that time in graduate school at Columbia. And he, of course, came to Chicago because he realized that Chicago was the only place in the country where he could realize his ambitions to be in politics at a high level. So Chicago is very important in the whole Black politics arena.
Well, it seems that this seat is very important. It's very crucial. Actually and symbolically. I just never realized, what having this Black voice in the House of Representatives really, really meant. From Oster to Priest on forward. Just going forward. What is it about this first congressional district seat? What is it? What makes it so special, Dr. Starks?
Well, it started as the heart of the African American community, and it's continued pretty much. Although, as you stated earlier, the number of African Americans in the first congressional district has gone down from 65% to now about 52%. And of course, that was as a result of people moving out of the city. And the biggest blow was the tearing down of all of the public housing, because people in public housing was one of the major political powerhouses in the first congressional district. But after they were torn down, thousands of African Americans moved to other districts in the city, as well as to the suburban areas. So yes, that was a very, very severe blow to the number of African Americans in the first congressional district. But the first congressional district still stands out as a major component of the African American political stance in not only in the state of Illinois and Chicago, but also in the nation. Okay, because as you stated, the first African American voted in to the Congress after the Civil War in the North was Oscar the Priest. Very important.
We're talking with Dr. Bob Starks. Dr. Bob Starks, brilliant political historian, political strategist, about the significance of this district, of the first congressional district of Illinois, here in Chicago, the majority-minority district that has really been known as really the Black seat in the House of Representatives. The Black seat, even as the numbers have gone down, it's still the Black seat. Where do you have any? What do you see with this particular race that we've got now?
Well, we need someone in that seat who understands very clearly the relationship between the Black community in Chicago as well as the Black community across the country, and the need for the confronting violence, particularly gun violence, the need for the education, for all of those issues that absolutely impact African Americans in the first congressional district. And of course, the rest of the country looks at the first congressional district and the congressperson representing that district as a major component of the Black caucus. And so the Black caucus will support support whoever wins that seat, and of course looks to them for a major leadership spot in the Black Caucus. And of course, that person should be a Democrat. That person should help to bolster the House majority. Hopefully that majority will stay in the Democratic hands and boost the needs of African Americans, because we are in bad shape at this point.
Dwight McKee, gun violence, inflation. I mean, we have gas at $6.99 a gallon on the south side of Chicago. I'm like, wait a minute. This is just, and and many of us have to drive because, public transportation doesn't go really in a big way past 95th Street. This is, I mean, we're really suffering out here.
But transportation is horrible, so people are afraid to ride public transportation.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Absolutely. Dwight McKee, his first congressional district seat. I remember when President Obama, then state senator Obama, ran against Bobby Rush, and he did not win, and he was beaten soundly as he tried to get that seat. And I even, shared with them at the time, because I do know the Obamas. I said, I don't know anyone of a certain age who could vote against Bobby Rush. I mean, they fed people. That's what the Panthers did. You got your breakfast, you got your lunch, you got your dinner, you had your program. I said, there's something about that seat. I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. What is it about this first congressional district and this congressional seat? What is it that makes it so special, Dwight?
Brother Saul hit on a lot of it. There's a couple other dimensions to it. One is because the seat can be such a traditional seat, as in Bobby seat, that you can gain great seniority, because the same person can hold that seat 20, 30, 40 years, and Congress works on seniority. And so the more seniority you have, the more power you have, the more committees that you can chair. And so it gives you real national implication, just based on the fact that one person can sit in that same seat for 20 years, develop quite a bit of seniority, and make major impact on legislation at committee level. Everything from commerce to transportation to military. It's a major seat in terms of its impact on Congress. Secondly, it is, as Bob said, it's a majority seat. Blacks are majority, but when you look at the other components of that congressional district, when you have everything from the University of Chicago to University of Illinois to these major hospital systems, it's a lot of resources and a lot of money attached to that district. A lot. And Chicago being a world-class city, impacting everything from transportation to education to University of Chicago having more Nobel Peace Prize winners than probably any other institution. That congressional district is profoundly impacted by its resources. One of the things that made Obama so powerful was not just he came out of that district, but he was also a good fellow from the University of Chicago, who put a tremendous amount of resources behind him to help him be elected to office. And so it represents more than just, the black community and the project. It represents a lot of other major institutions which are in the heart of or attached to that district.
as you see it, I mean, what do we need from someone who's going to succeed someone who's as iconic as Bobby Rush? I mean, Bobby Rush's history is so, I mean, it's so rich. I mean, and it's one of such profound service. What should we be looking for someone who's going to succeed him, Dwight?
I think consistency and a commitment to use the power of that seat to bring in resources that can help empower the people there, because of the politics of Chicago have been segregated from a lot of the resources. And so while we have been part of the reason that a lot of the resources have been drawn to Chicago, the Black community and the brown community has not benefited proportionately with the resources that it has been able to draw to the city. And so one of the things that I think you should look for is a commitment to be able to bring national resources to local people. I remember one of the things that your brother did that was so effective was bring water to the south suburbs that had problems years before that, as he tried to bring an airport. Had he stayed in office, he would have probably succeeded in making an airport to those blacks who needed those kind of job options.
Mm-hmm. Jobs and business opportunities, right? Because what's so tragic about that airport being thwarted is that, there were billions of dollars of contracts that had really been promised, Dwight, and I'd like for Dr. Stark to speak to that, that Congressman Jackson had worked out, so that not only would we get jobs, but we would get opportunities to have businesses at that airport, at that international airport that the international community wanted, Dwight.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. Go ahead, Bob.
No. It was a missed opportunity to really bolster the African American community in Chicago, as well as Dwight said, in the suburban communities. Because remember, it was going to heavily impact those suburban communities within the 1st Congressional District and the 2nd Congressional District. So that would have been a major boost to the African American community, not only in jobs, but also in businesses. And we need someone in that 1st Congressional District seat that understands the relationship, as Dwight said, between not only representation, but business, as well as the connection that can bring resources to people. African American community needs resources. We need resources that will bolster our businesses, independent businesses, as well as major corporate businesses that Black people can start and continue in. So we need a person who understands that. Not only that, we need a person who understands education. Remember, we have a serious problem with education in the African American community. I don't know how and why we've gotten to the point where we don't understand that the education in this country for African Americans is not what it should be. And of course, the pandemic dealt a major blow to education across the country and severely impacted African American children and people.
Just going forward, we only have a few minutes left in the segment. Where are we? I mean, this is a minority district. Can you envision this not being a majority-minority district? I mean, we're losing, Black people losing numbers, Dwight. If that happens, what will happen, do you suspect?
Oh, yeah, I can easily envision that. And as the gentrification projects get more and more torn down, which was the strategy in the first place. The reason that the mayor at the time decided to tear down the project was to dilute the power of the black community in their district. Because basically, the power of their district. It was, when Stephen Douglas was the congressman from that district, he single-handedly bought the railroads from Illinois to Chicago. It's what it was Illinois Central Railroad, right? In his backyard. Yeah, in his backyard. And changed the whole history and changed the whole dynamic of the Midwest. Yes, it did. Chicago into a world-class city by himself. Mm-hmm. Because he understood the power of that district. And even to this day, the railroads run right next door to his house, to his backyard. Exactly. The power of that district, when played correctly, and I turn it over to Bob, can revolutionize the economy of not just the black community, but the Midwest, with somebody who understands the power of that with a made-up mind. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Dr. Starks, really, these last 3 minutes, Dr. Starks, if you will, these last 3 minutes I want to give to you, because I want you to kind of put a bow on this for us, to help us, to give us some context, which is what you and Dwight have been doing. Give us the context, because it makes me look at the railroad a little bit differently, what you just said.
Well, not only the railroad, but of course, as you stated earlier, the possibility of a third airport in the city and the suburban communities. The fact that whatever major commercial or business things that come along, we've got to make sure that congressperson insists and demand that African Americans are in on the ground floor of whatever comes about. Let me give you an example. Not in First Congressional District, but look at the casino that is coming in to the city of Chicago. We have to have political leaders who will insist that African Americans not only participate in the restaurants and those kinds of things, but on the ground floor in the construction of those things, as well as the entertainment. I mean, every single aspect of major political as well as commercial endeavors. We've got to have a person that has that kind of insight, as well as a person who will maintain communications with the common people in the district. We've got to have that kind of person who understands the relationship between the people in the district and the politics in Washington, and how, as Dwight stated, bring those resources back to the community. And I am really emphasizing the need for a person who understands the need for education to be improved in the First Congressional District, as well as the city of Chicago, because we're behind in education.
Everybody, do you have a final thought, Dwight?
Yeah, and understand the impact, the exponential impact of bringing something in like airport. That was the genius of Jesse Jr. And ancillary business, there's other ancillary contracts to come out of that. When Stephen Douglas brought in the railroad, even though he sold out black people to do it with the Missouri Compromise, when we brought in the railroad, it burned the cattle industry, the stockyard, came out of the railroad. Sears and Roebuck came out of the railroad. It made Chicago a world-class city because now you have a distribution center that a manufacturing center now has access to markets that they didn't have access to before. The impact of something like an airport can spin out billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of commerce and contracts.
Well, you know, the
every
yes, the last minute belongs to you.
railroad, and every railroad going from east to west came through Chicago, the train. And of course, the Chicago airport, the two airports are still major hubs for not only the national community, but for the international community. So Dwight is absolutely correct. Transportation, we have to understand that. We have to understand the impact of major commercial endeavors on the African American community. Absolutely.
And you know, and everybody, you need to understand what your needs are. You need to know not just who you want, but you need to first understand what you need and make sure that whoever gets that office delivers for you. But you need to know the ask. You need to know how important it is to have this airport, this third airport. It's still important, and it's still, quite frankly, it is the stroke of a pen from the governor away from being a reality. But what they did not want Jesse to do, Congressman Jackson to do, was diversify it. He was demanding that Black people and women and the Hispanic community get a certain percentage of contracts, building the airport and getting businesses in the airport. Absolutely, people pushed up against him, and the unions pushed up against him. Yeah, I'm calling them all out, because that's what they did. They did that. Yeah, no, because I know what my brother went through. That's why he had a people's groundbreaking. He said, we're going to build this airport. So I hope that whoever takes it, I hope it's Jonathan, but you know what? We have 14 plus great people running. So everybody, just make sure whomever you're supporting, make sure you support them and get registered to vote. Find out if you're still registered to vote. Make sure you've not been purged from the voter rolls. Go to vote.org. Make sure you are still a registered voter, everybody. And just get out and vote and let all of the candidates know that they have a home on the Santita Jackson Show. I love you, everybody. God bless you. Dr. Starks, you want to say something to my Facebook Live audience before I let them go?
Yeah, I just want to say, get out and vote. Please vote. It is very, very important. In fact, it's crucial that we have people voting and we have people understanding the importance of that vote, because we need a strong African American in that seat who will be dedicated to making the African American people in that community, as well as everybody in that community and district, well aware of the needs of our community and a good and dedicated approach to changing the lives of people in the first congressional district. Because as Dwight said, it is symbolic of African American power in the whole country. Again, remember, we had an African American in the Congress before New York City, before Los Angeles, before Philadelphia, and they looked up to the city of Chicago as being the symbolic leader, and it's still the case.
Well, you know, this became the economic engine for SCLC. Through when Dr. King, people do not realize, Dr. King did not hire Reverend, and then Reverend started working. Reverend James Bevel, and you would remember this, you and Dwight would remember this,
Absolutely.
really the mad genius of the movement, everybody, the mad genius of the movement. He met my father while my father was a student at the University of Chicago, getting his master's in divinity at the seminary. And he said, he said, Doc, I have someone for you. This boy can do it. He organizes like nobody's business, because my father was already organizing. He's a born organizer. He and my mother, that's what they do. And my father tapped two of his classmates who you knew so well, Dr. Starks and Dwight, Gary Masoni and David Wallace. And they would test out housing discrimination in the city. And they were able to do that under their professors at the University of Chicago. But by the time Dr. King met him, when my father he'd already met him when he was in college, but by the time Reverend Bevel brought him to Dr. King, he said, we need to hire him. He needs to run SCLC in Chicago. Of course, everybody at SCLC was like, he's a kid. I don't think so. But he was also such a tremendous fundraiser and organizer. Dr. King was shocked. But Chicago is also a place that is ripe to be organized. But it takes a lot of work now. It takes a lot of work. But you can do it here. There's something in the water here. Folks, Black folks in Chicago and people in Chicago. Black, white, brown, yellow, and red. This is such a political city, such an American city. I love it.
But you can't, Santita, we cannot dismiss the fact that Chicago has a unique relationship between politics and activism and civil rights.
Absolutely.
And of course, personified by your father, my buddy.
Well, and the work that all of you did together now, because one of the things that he did was organize all y'all so all y'all could work together, right? No,
Exactly.
don't act like you haven't been working with him now. No. I'm not going to let you do that.
I really don't think people realize outside of the city of Chicago, and some people inside the city, that is a crucial relationship between activism, civil rights, and politics, because they all blend together to push the agenda and the needs of African American people. And if we don't have those relationships, you can't move. And the person who becomes the congressperson in the 1st Congressional District has to understand that relationship and never try to separate them. They gotta work together in harmony.
You're absolutely right. Because I think of Congressman Gus Savage, a true activist congressman. And I think of, because when we were, of course, former Deputy Governor Luanna Peters ran his office, and I worked for them when I was in college.
Right.
And what was so wonderful, I'm so glad I had that experience for a couple of years, because it was a tremendous experience in which I saw our office in Washington was unlike other offices in Washington. Number one, he had a skeleton staff in Washington. Donovan, me, there were like 4 of us in the William, Donovan. It was and 4 of us plus Miss Peters, who ran everything. She ran everything. But she's a pure genius, and she's been underestimated. I've got to call her. But what she did was they made the office in Chicago the hub. I mean, that was it, and it was full of activists. I mean, I called there one day, and Ruth Carson, who was my father's old secretary, was running the office in Chicago. I was like, what? And Congressman Savage said, oh, no, all the old push people said they need jobs and benefits, but we need activists. He said, we need people who are going to work with people out in an office like that. He said, that is what you use the Congress for. He said, I'm not going to stop being an activist, Santita. I'm not going to stop that. He said, I just bring it here.
Right. Well, not only that, he had the background of having been a journalist as well as an activist, and he clearly understood the relationship between, again, as I said, activism, civil rights, and politics. And he brought them all together, as you stated. And I think it was a genius to make Chicago the hub rather than Washington, because people could see him and relate to his staff immediately, as opposed to having to go through all the mechanizations of calling people in Washington.
No. You know what we did in Washington? If someone had their lights cut off or their gas cut off, you got a call from Washington, D.C. And Congressman Savage and Ms. Peters said that means a lot when Washington calls. And so people were getting their gas cut back, turned back on, and lights. And, if you had to deal with someone who was having trouble with their child in school, if it couldn't be resolved locally, you got a call from the Washington office. which changed the temperature. You know,
Exactly.
oh,
Of course.
I always love Gus Savage. Always love him. Always love him. What a genius.
And if you got a call from Gus, you remember you had a real conversation.
Oh, yeah.
he was forceful.
Well, that's
He
right.
was absolutely forceful.
Well, and you know, and he wanted to know everything. You know, he wanted to know everything. He wanted to know how people were doing. And you remember that big picnic he would throw every year with about 10,000 people out there? Oh, Lord, he lived for that. Oh, I miss that man. Oh, boy. But there's a lot to learn from him, because that at that time was a notoriously hard district to hold on to. It was a very hard seat. It was a very volatile seat. And I remember the speech that got him put out of Congress. And he said, this speech is probably going to get me put out of Congress. And of course, it was on Middle East policy. But he was a courageous man. He was a great man. And he was a model congressman. And I'll always love him. And I'll always love Luanna Peters, Deputy Governor Peters, because learned so much from them. And plus, you know, she got me my apartment, and the congressman and my father showed up at my building and frightened the bejesus out of everyone there. Because they wanted to see my apartment and what it looked like. See how safe it was.
Well,
Oh,
you gotta have Luanna on your show.
oh, I have.
And, yeah, she's quite a genius.
Oh, yeah.
And a historian.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
remembers everything.
Everything. And she's been involved in everything. And she has been, when you look at these political operatives today, she is, when you look at Donna Brazile and Mignon Moore, they're all building on her. And mind you, Luanna Peters, her resume is just unmatched. Unmatched. No.
As well as Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago and Washington.
On the local, state, and federal level, she is untouchable.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I'm gonna call it right to that. Someone else I'm writing down. Okay. But is there anything else you'd like to say, you and Dwight, before we go, Dr. Starks?
Okay. Yeah. God bless whoever takes that seat in the 1st Congressional District. I am convinced that of all of the candidates, I think you have some good people who understand that relationship that we outlined and will do a good job. And major person that will understand that relationship again. I repeat, and I'm sounding, just repeating it again and again, the relationship between politics, activism, and civil rights in the Black community. And with that, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, always. Dwight McKee?
Yeah, I just like the honor I am to be on with Bob Starks, who's a profound professor and an organizing genius. And I'm glad to be on with him.
Well, I'm honored that both of you were here. You all are both geniuses, and of course, our mentor is Dr. Bob Starks, and we just thank God for him. He helps us to understand really the science of politics. He makes it very understandable, relatable, but he helps us to understand that beyond the emotion of politics, there is a science to it, and you need to understand that.
Precisely. Okay.
Love you so much, and thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
No, please.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Get out of here. That's what this platform is for. Thank you. I love you all, everybody. I hope that you all learned something today. I really, really, really do. Lot to think about, everybody. Please vote. Vote.org. Make sure that you have not been purged from the voter rolls. Make sure that your high school senior, now that they've graduated, or if they're going to be 18 by the fall, get them registered to vote. Make sure. Before I left for college, my father, Aline Walker, took me downtown, Dwight, and Bob Starks, to get registered to vote. My father said, before you get out of here, for your birthday, you're getting registered to vote. And that's what I did. That is what I did. So, you know.
In that regard, I'd like to see whoever becomes the congressman insist, maybe even putting it in law, that a student graduating not only gets a graduation diploma, but also get a voter registration card. And remember, this was an idea that your father came up with in the 1980s.
Well,
do you recall that?
Actually, the 70s when he was doing the Push Excel rallies. But you know that is Texas law now. But guess what? They don't enforce it. Oh.
Okay. Well,
No, but it should be. Yeah.
It'll have to insist on that.
I know. I agree. I mean, well, I think that should become a campaign issue. And Chicago could become a model. It really could be. It could be.
And the teaching of civics in the public schools and geography. I cannot understand, and this has been one of my big beefs for years, is why did we stop teaching civics in the public schools? Why did we stop teaching geography? Many kids couldn't tell you where Wyoming is on the map. Many kids, some kids think that Africa is a country and not a continent. You understand? And many kids couldn't point out, downtown on a map in the city of Chicago. And this is crazy.
Well, many of our kids haven't seen the lake.
Correct. That's correct.
I mean, Dr. Starks. I'm like, how does that work? How do you not see the lake in Chicago? I mean, how does that happen? Well, I love you. Thank you so much, Dwight McKee. I love you. Thank you.
Keep up the good work, Dwight. You're on the right path. And thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye. God bless you, everybody. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show.